It's a hot summer day in High Rannoch, and Pointage is cooling off at Meltwater Lock, splashing his feet in the ice-cold water. As he looks around, the gull drakes swirling overhead, and the witch's automatic fishing line still enchantedly dipping into the water. He thinks to himself, I like it here. Hello, and welcome back to Sphere Hoppers. I'm your host and storyteller, Royce Rosewood. We are still playing through our Apothecaria campaign with Pointage, the Winged Dwarf. We are now in late summer. We are on week 4 of summer. A couple things. I decided to change the way that the patients get selected. In the game, you're supposed to draw a card, and the suit of the card tells you what kind of patient you get. But we've collected so many previous patients and other people that we've met that I just put those on a list. And there's 14 of them. So from now on, I'm going to be rolling a 20-sided die. And if we get one of those numbers, we'll see a patient that we've seen before or a character that we've seen before. If we get above that number, then we'll invent a new character. I just want to start seeing more people that we've seen before and start to weave stuff back together rather than continuing to meet new characters. We'll still probably meet some new characters, but just less likely. What is our ailment for this week? We have moved into advanced ailments. All right, a 7. Phantom limb. A genetic disorder that affects those with the gift. The afflicted sprouts the ghostly limb of a deceased relative that they have no control over. We need spirit and sleep, and we have a timer of 6. Let's roll our die. We roll a 9. That's Ahmed, the fascinating trapper. Ahmed comes down from the Cloud Isles, knocks on Pointage's door with this phantom limb. Oh yeah, we met earlier, and I know I've already asked for your help, but if I could ask for your help again, I seem to have grown this strange and phantom limb, and the word about town is you're the one to go to. So can you help me out? Well, let's see what ingredients we need to get. Turns out the ingredients that we need are in the bog, which we have access to but have not been to yet. So we will go there. We are looking for a snake's promise and an innocent's suffering. Blastfire Bog, a beautiful but treacherous swamp that lurks past the territory of the giant spiders. Blastfire gets its name from the swamp gas, bog dragons, or the goblins who live there, depending on who you ask. For those brave enough, the bog has amazing vistas and some of the most unique flora in High Rannoch. We have 6 turns. We need a 9 for the innocent suffering and a 5 for the snake's promise. What do we get for our first event? 9. Perfect. Rounding some gnarled willow, you spy a crashed airship tangled in the grasping branches of the swamp's canopy. What does it look like? Do you climb aboard? If so, what do you find inside? This is so interesting. This is perfect, right? Because the last time we saw an airship, there was a captain, right? And she said she was headed to a card that we drew from the box, but that was wetlands. So I think this is it. It seems like the bog has won against the airship. I'm wondering if there are any survivors. Let's call it 50-50. 14. Yes. Pointage goes and finds a banged up and bandaged up Captain Cavera, and she and the remaining survivors of her crew sort of stumble out. She says, the bog has won this time, but we'll be back. And Pointage says, are you sure that's wise? It seems like it did not go very well this time. And the captain says, I have my orders, and I will continue this assault until we are victorious. All right, so that 9 will get us the innocent's suffering. Here's what it says. The This is one of those old school reagents that gave witches a bad name. Nowadays, it's much more efficient and pleasant to just find a hiker with sore feet to collect it. Oh, perfect. So Pointage uses his wand and collects the suffering from some of the sailors who have crashed, who are maybe a little bit less involved, a little bit more on the innocent side. I don't know if I would describe the captain's behavior as innocent. This is all perfect. Isn't it so fun when it all just like fits together like that? Foraging value up to 3, timer down to 5. We just need to get a 5 or higher to get our snake's promise. A 10. A large turtle swims past with a micro island on its back. And as luck would have it, there's a reagent growing on it. Draw a card and treat it as a plant of that value. All right, well, we already got a 10, so we're going to be able to get our snake's promise. And then we'll be able to get an extra reagent of value 8. All right, we'll call this a unit of surgeon sap. All right, and here's the snake's promise. Notoriously difficult to get and very easily broken, my recommendation is to bribe them with food and learn the difference between an adder and a python. So maybe the snake was wrapped around this tree that we got the sap from on the back of the turtle, and the snake is there. What does it promise us? We don't really need this information, but it might be interesting. I'll draw an engine card. It says wants to create a masterpiece. So I think the snake promises Pointage to help on one of the sculpture projects, perhaps. Oh, yes. I am happy to help with any masterpieces. It is something I have always wanted to do. Well, that was pretty straightforward. We get the wand. We've got our innocent suffering and the snake's promise with the wand. We come back, distill them down into our alembic, and create a vaporous concoction that we use to dispel the phantom limb of Ahmed the Trapper, who is delighted and says, "Oh, thanks so much. I'll be definitely telling other people about you." All right, so our reputation goes up to 23. We are now in a higher difficulty, so we get even more reward. That's 40 times 2 is 80 for a total of 191. We do have to use a piece of the moonstone to negate the poison on that one. So that uses up one of our moonstones, but we still got another one. So we are good there. Now we've got downtime for the week, so we can use that to work on our sculpture commission from the demon. Now, I was thinking about this, and Pointage has experience with demons. If you've seen the Troika campaign, you know he's had dealings with demons before, and maybe does not quite trust them. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. I think he's still going to do it because he needs the commissions. It depends on the intentions of this demon, which we don't know. Based on our craft level, we now have 40 points to sculpt down. We've got this shadow stone. And we've got our dwarvish auto chisel and our through seer. We get to draw 2 cards at a time. We get to redraw any cards of value lower than 3. And we get to do that 3 times to try to get 40. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it this week, but we do have one more week. So let's see. Oh my. So that's 24 right off the bat. That's 2 queens. All right. There's that. We get to redraw this 2. So that's 16 plus 24 is 40. My goodness. Well, there you go. We're able to finish that right up. So let's see. Is this demon to be trusted? We're just going to call it 50-50. All right, 29. Yes, okay. Demon appears again.
I am Thorada. Is my sculpture complete?
Pointage says, yes, here it is. What did he make? Let's draw an anchor card. I'm going to use an archipelago. So it's like this series of islands made of shadow stone. And Thorada says,
excellent. This will make a great surprise.
All right, that's shadow stone. That's 3. That's a value of 24 plus our craft level of 12. So that's 36 using our made up rules for commissions. We now have a total of 227 silver. And our craft level goes up to 16. And we've now completed 3 commissions. If we can do one more before the end of summer, that'll get us in a good place to get ahead of the artificer. We have a little bit of time. left over this week, so I thought we would just go into the village and draw an event card just to see what happens. Oh. Clue about the witch. All right, well, I'll draw our event for the village, and then we'll draw for the clue, and we'll see what we get. All right, a 3. You see a bard busking outside the Copper Fox, who has managed to drum up quite the crowd. What makes their music so interesting? Do you drop a silver in their case? Do any lyrics stick with you? Well, I'll draw a secondary figure card. It says their agenda is to right the historic wrongs of an event. Does this have something to do with what we already know? 50-50. 10. Extreme yes. Is he on the side of the devourer or on the side of the stag? 1 for devourer, 2 for stag. 2 for stag. Right, so this bard is singing about the history of the place and when it got settled, and then the ways that the humans and the other settlers, exploited the land and took resources from that. And from the point of view of the stag, this was against the natural flow of things. And so the bard is singing about that. And while Pointage doesn't quite agree, it's not quite on the side of this in the way that this is shaking out, can't help but be compelled by the song and is wondering a little bit about the complexity of this situation. But I don't think he drops a silver. Anyway, and we'll see how this connects to our clues. We're now on the finale of clues, so let's see what we get. 6. The witch's luggage returns through the mail. They were supposed to come back today. There's a return address. Well, this is interesting because we know that they are already here, right? They've just been in hiding. And so it seems like if they sent their luggage off to return, that seems like that was maybe just a ruse. This would be a distraction to give credence to the idea that the witch is actually somewhere else when Pointage knows or strongly suspects that the witch is actually hiding out somewhere nearby in Hyranic. At the post office, he sort of makes a show of going like, oh, that's so odd. She was supposed to be back by now. I'll look into this and take care of this. But he sort of knows that she's up to something and is actually still nearby. All right, end of week 4. All right, week 5. What's our ailment for this week? 2. Giver's disease. The afflicted has become allergic to material possessions and has started giving away all of their worldly goods. If left untreated, leads to hypothermia, starvation, and boredom. We have a timer of 6. We need senses, hot, and burn. Who is it? 3? That's that Wolverine. The Wolverine from earlier who stole all the books. So this Wolverine is now trying to give back all the books that they stole, in addition to everything else that they've stolen in their lair, which is funny because that's what we want, but it is Pointage's job to try to cure this ailment. Maybe if we can cure this, maybe we can sort of stop this swinging and we can also get everything back to where it belongs. All right, we're going to go to Moonbreaker Mountain. We're going to be looking for Cynic Ivy, which is easier to find in the summer. So that'll be good. And then we're going to look for nest scraps. So we're going to need a 6 and a 4. We have 6 turns, and our foraging value is going to start at 2. Let's see what we get. A 4. You stop for a moment to rest by a wayfarer's stone. The rune-carved boulder provides much-needed warmth and comfort. You aren't the only one here today. A stranger from a far-off land stops to ask you something. What do they like? What do they want? Do they get it? Let's draw a figure card and an aspect card. So we drew a fibrous dryad. I don't know, maybe if they have a hard time understanding each other, but Pointage comes to understand that this dryad is looking for the naiad in the woods. And so Pointage points this dryad in the right way, and this creature, this woody, sort of viney plant kind of creature, moves off into the woods. Interesting. And we do a forest. That is one of our things. We do find some nest scraps. Nest-building birds, especially Rannick eagles, have quite particular tastes for their nests and have learned a few special reagents that keep their eggs safe and sound. Don't wreck the nests, please. Takes our foraging value to 3 and our timer to 5. All right, we just need a 6 or higher to get the cynic ivy, a 5. A hot air balloon weighs anchor next to you, and the eccentric balloonist offers a lift to wherever you'd like to go, increase timer by 1. Every time you get this result, write about the journey you take together. All right, so we see Macthan again, the eccentric balloonist, who says,
Oh, boy. Good to see you again, out in the mountains. Ah, yes. Hot summer day. Great day for ballooning.
So what do we learn about Macthan? I'm going to draw a secondary trait on these figure cards. Okay, this trait says extremely talkative, which I think we could have maybe guessed before. But what is he going to talk about? I'm going to draw an origin card. It's going to tell us about this place. This says, site of a notorious wedding. Macthan goes on and on about this wedding.
Oh, yes, I remember. The bride and groom wanted me to bring the balloon out, and I was supposed to descend the bride down by the balloon, but winds picked up, and we ended up crashing through the wedding party. Oh, that was a mistake. The groom's father happened to be half giant, and he drew his sword, and I had to duel him in front of the guests. Fortunately, I was able to defeat him, and the wedding went on as scheduled. Of course, the priest had fainted, so I had to also step in and officiate the wedding. My goodness. Nothing like those days, huh?
Gain a foraging value, but the timer doesn't go down because we gain a timer. Trying to get higher than a 6. A king. Pushing yourself as much as you can. You keep heading upwards, braving biting winds and perilous climbs until eventually you reach the summit. This is the dragon again. All right, so we get another moonstone. And he is also going to tell us the story of another constellation. So we've already learned about the constellation of the snake, which is attributed to the devourer, and the constellation of the deer, which is attributed to the stag. And then the third force that's been going on is the temple shaker. So I think we're going to specifically ask about the constellation, if there's a constellation attributed to the temple shaker. So I'll draw an anchor card to see what shape it has. A tool, right? And we know that because we've seen in Heroes Hollow the blade, the mechanical machine that's called the blade of the temple shaker. So I think there's also a correspondence there. So the dragon points out the constellation of the tool, which is, a blade, this mechanical blade. The way that these constellations are arranged is pointing to some sort of convergence or conflict. I think maybe at this point, Pointage is starting to wonder, if he's on the right side, what should he be doing? And I don't know that the dragon can answer that question, but let's just sort of see. We're going to say 50-50. Pointage asks, am I on the right side? 41. A yes, but not a strong yes. And the dragon says,
little one, young one, only you know what lies in your heart, and you must do what you feel is best. There are no sides, but we can choose to protect the things that we love. This is the way of things. If you feel in your heart that what you do is right, then so it may be. But know that others have their parts to play as well. And that's a king, so that will get us cynic ivy. A strange poison in this hanging ivy causes the afflicted to see everything in duller shades and to be impervious to joy, laughter, and surprise. Oh, that's so sad. We've got the cynic ivy, we've got the nest scraps, and then the third piece that we need is we can use the surgeon sap that we've already collected. I imagine we make sort of a sticky dish and we set it out to lure the wolverine, who takes it up and
yes, they have stopped their mad quest to give away everything that they've collected. We can maybe return some of the things that they were taking, and we get those books back, which are familiar. The mountain lion is very pleased about. All right, well, we have some downtime, so we can get another commission. So let's draw it up. All right, who's it for? A foe. The reason for fighting. And our deadline is 3 weeks. The foes that I can think of are, one, the artificer who has challenged us, and I don't think they would come to us for commission, because the whole point is they're trying to beat us at the number of commissions that we can take. So the only other foe that I can think is the stag. Who was it? The speaker for the stag? Yeah, who we'd heard about before but not yet met, comes to us. And so what do they like? Let's draw a secondary trait to learn more about the speaker of the stag. They have a trait of a pristine persona, reputation, or appearance. So they're just totally put together. They have like these white with like golden threaded trim, these robes that are just so nice. And there's like patterns of like stag horns. They approach, what's their name? Gabrima, the speaker of the stag. Gabrima comes to the witch's cottage and says, your predecessor and I did not always see eye to eye on things. But I know you are your own person, and it has come to my attention that you have become quite the noted craftsperson. My patron, the stag of the Cloud Isles, is in need of a weapon. I just thought I would come to see if you might be interested in making this. Well, this is a really interesting conflict, right? Because this is not the side that Pointage is on. But if Pointage can make this commission, that will put them at 4, which is in a really good place to get ahead of the artificer, who's currently at 2 and is going to make probably between 1 and 2 more commissions this season. But if we're successful, this could give an advantage to the stag, who we know that the witch is working against. So what is Pointage going to do? I wonder if they might be able to sculpt something that looks good, but is actually going to break at a critical moment so that they could get credit for this commission, but it would actually be a hindrance to the stag. That feels really dishonest, but I think based on what Pointage has learned, he's picking a side here in this conflict, and it's going to be on the side of the devourer and the witch. It's really interesting. It makes me really nervous. What are we going to make this out of? All right, we're going to go to the forest to look for some true silver. It's a little bit harder to find, but I think between it and the riverborn tin that we've collected earlier, if we get just 1 unit of true silver, we should be okay. And that sort of makes sense narratively too, right? We'll get this silver, but then we'll put this weaker metal kind of inside to weaken this weapon. All right, back into Glimmerwood Grove. We're basically looking for a face card. 6. You wander too near a boar's den. You hear the mothers roar and are chased through the woods until you lose her and your way. Lose 2 foraging points and gain none this turn. That sets us back. We have 5 turns left this week. All right, try again. The Joker, another hint to the witch. All right. King. If you feel like you have enough information and are prepared, you can mount a rescue, aid them on their mission, or settle their unfinished business. Well, we have sort of already decided that, right? Okay, well, that's our last clue. By making this thing, we are definitely kind of joining the fight, so to speak. Just wandering the woods, Pointage realizes sort of what he's actually up to and gathers his resolve. But that does take a turn, and we burned a draw that we could have used to get some silver. Oh well, let's try again. 4. A jealous truffle hunter mistakes you for a competitor and takes a pot shot at you. Unfortunately, it hits. You have some time to heal the wound. Do you curse them? If so, what does the curse do? Decrease the timer by 1. So it'll take us down to 3, and then that'll take us down to 2. I wonder if now Pointage is feeling a little bit more paranoid. It's like, wait, was that an accident? Or, something about resolving to join this conflict has now invited enemies. Pointage is going to shoot off a little curse that makes this person always tell the truth, and we'll see if they are working for one of the other sides or not. Let's ask. 50-50. 37. Yes. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but the agents of the stag are after you. I detected your change in resolve and noticed you as an enemy of the stag. And Pointer just played this off. It's like, well, I'm actually making a weapon for the stag, and I'm looking for this true silver. So tell the stag to back off and maybe rethink your magical detection. I don't know if that will work, but we'll see. All right. That costs us some time, so we only have 2 more draws. A 10, not quite enough. While wandering, your vision starts to swim and you lose your balance. In your feverish state, you hear a voice speaking in a language you cannot understand or even attempt to speak. You awake in the center of a fairy circle. What do you think happened? I think the stag is aligned with the woods and the fae, and they are now working against us. So we've only got 1 more shot to try to beat. Nope. A group of thieving fairies. Grab your forage basket. Okay, fortunately we don't have any. We haven't collected anything, so unsuccessful. A bit weird because we've been commissioned by the stag, and now the stag is working against us. That is the end of week 5. Let's do another ailment. What's it this week? Ace. Spore breath. The afflicted has eaten a mushroom that they really shouldn't have. Now when they breathe, the spores are released in a noxious cloud. We need parasite, lungs, and mouth. Our timer is 6. And who is it? 2. That's Zavina, the bold duck pilot. This tracks because she had also eaten raw honey out of a hive. So I think she just eats things very adventurously and maybe doesn't think about the consequences. So she comes back and she's like, you've been helping me out so much. So sorry again, but I just been eating this mushroom and I'm coughing these spores. So if you could just help me out again, that would be great. Okay, let's see what we can get. Oh, I'm also realizing I didn't get our rewards for last ailment. We need to go to Meltwater Lock. We need a slime shell and 2 units of dentist crab. All right, we have foraging value of 2, and we have a timer of 6. A queen. A bottle washes ashore just ahead of you. It looks ancient, but the message inside seems only recently written, and even more strangely gives instructions. How to reply. This is another bottle from the Queen of the Mermaids. So the first one that we got, Pointage thought was a scam. It was promising power. And then the second one was talking about how she just wanted to get home to the ocean. What should we draw this time? I'm going to draw a secondary figure card. We learn one more thing about this Queen of the Mermaids. This one says, wants to defeat a deity in a game or competition. Well, which one? What side is the mermaid on? So does she want to defeat 1, the stag, or 2, the devourer? 1, the stag. The Queen of the Mermaid says, I know I might have been a bit forward in my earlier bottles, but let me assure you, I know a war is brewing, and I need to tell you that I want nothing more desperately than to defeat the stag in competition. If you can help me, I would be able to assist you with great power. Well, this changes things. Pointage replies and says, good to have you on our side. Yes, things are drawing close to a conflict. Stand ready, be ready. We've got that queen. We get our 1 unit of dentist crab. Oh, and that's a spade, so we need to draw a artificer event. A 9. Conveyor belts have been laid out through this locale. Increase the timer by 1 as you can ride them around. Oh, fun. Yeah, there's definitely been artificer activity here before. We know they were collecting things, and now there's conveyor belts all around the lake and maybe across the lake. Gross. Next foraging. 8. Baz Bata breaches the surface of the lock and lets out an earth-shaking roar, scaring all the animals into hiding. If you remember in the description of Meltwater Lock, there's some sort of creature called Baz Bata that we have not encountered at all. It says, if you are looking for an animal reagent, lose 1 foraging point. All right, so we lose 1 foraging point, but 8 is enough for us to get a dentist crab. And then we just need a slime shell. We just need a 2 or more. A jack. A giant has left some tremendous item. Right, we know that the giant has been like spearfishing and hunting down there. Maybe he has been trying to hunt the mermaid queen. I think maybe the giant is on the side of the stag. Pointage is able to sabotage their weapon. We'll call that unlikely because it's probably pretty big and he's just a small guy. But, ooh, 100. An extreme failure. Pointage has, I think, maybe this sort of avert thing has now, he's alerted the attention of the giant and who's like chasing him. And fortunately, he is able to hop on one of the conveyor belts and get out of there. But I think this maybe has shown Pointage's hand. The consequence of failure is that he's made his side clear in the conflict and is going to be facing a lot more resistance, even more so than he's already been facing. We are able to get everything that we need. We're able to cure Zavina's spore mouth. She says, thanks once again. And remember, if you need a pilot, I can help you out. All right. That increases our reputation. We get 80 silver. I don't think there's any way that the stag is now going to take our commission. So I think our commission is canceled. So we lose that. End of week 6. So we're now going to get into the summer festival, the sunrise celebration. Warmth, sunshine, and excuse to get in the water. This celebration revolves around fun in the sun with some leftover fertility rituals. The whole village flocks to the lock for the rowboat race, and tensions are high. A new challenger threatens to take the champion's spot. Who are they? Do you take part? If so, draw 2 cards for yourself, 2 for the champion, and 2 for the challenger. Whoever has the highest single card wins and is given Bata's Ore, which grants 2 foraging points per turn while in Meltwater Lock. This is really interesting, and I think this can kind of stand in for the conflict that is brewing. Pointage represents the side of the Devourer and the Witch. The current champion is aligned with the Stag. We'll even say it's the Speaker of the Stag, Gabrima, who we met earlier. And then the Challenger is going to represent the side of the Artificer and the Temple Shaker, and is one of the automatons of the Artificer. And this is going to be sort of a proxy to the impending conflict that we are definitely getting closer and closer to. We've got our 3 racers. We've got Pointage for the Devourer. We've got Gabrima for the Stag, and we've got the automaton for the Temple Shaker. Now, no one's being overt about this, but those who know and those who have chosen sides in the conflict are seeing this as sort of a proxy competition, and they're on the lock. So I'm going to draw cards one at a time. Everybody gets 2. Whoever gets the single highest card wins. So we'll draw Pointage last for highest attention. All right, so the automaton draws a card, an ace. So that's very bad. So the automaton, the water's splashing up and it's getting into their circuits, and they're really not suited for, a boat race. So they're off to a very, very bad start. Now, Gabrima is the current champion, also gets an ace. Oh, so what I think this represents is maybe the Queen of Mermaids is able to send up like a wave or a splash and like really get them off to a bad start. What's going on? And they're, they've got this fancy, swimming suit, and the oars just aren't going right. And there's these weird waves, and they keep pushing them backwards. And they're, but this is not how this goes at all. Wah! Okay, so how Pointage does. A 4. Okay, Pointage is also not doing great, but he's able to use the disadvantage of his opponents, takes an early lead. All right, so everybody gets 1 more card. All right, so how does the automaton do? An 8. The automaton figures it out. abandons their oars, puts their hands in the water and spins them like propellers, and is able to shoot ahead. All right. Gabrima, so that's a 3. So she's totally overwhelmed by the changing tides. And, we see little flips of a fin from the mermaid queen who's helping out. All right, so if Pointage can draw higher than an 8, they will win this boat race and this proxy conflict. And if they cannot, then the automaton on the side of the temple shaker will win. All right, and it's a 7. Oh, so close. And so Pointage rows and rows and rows and gets so close and almost catches up with the automaton, but just can't. And the automaton wins the side of the temple shaker, this one who's against maybe both of the gods, and wins. And there's also this sort of sense in the village, right, with the automatons and the artificer sort of building more of their machines and taking more of their resources and building up around the lake. They're just sort of like slowly taking over the village and sort of changing the character of the village. All right, and that is the end of the season, so we also need to draw for how many commissions the artificer was able to complete this season. It's a 2 that represents 1, so that puts Pointage and the artificer at an even 3. They are tied. Pointage has chosen his side in the conflict. The forces of the stag are now conspiring against Pointage, but the artificer on the side of the temple shaker has also scored a win today. Tensions are getting high in Hyranic, and it's only a matter of time before things reach a boiling point. Well, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoy this, please like, subscribe, and share. Follow along. This is Science Fantasy Awesome, and you are awesome.